aspirational India has at its helm the big idea men who, armed with epic ambition, grit, brilliance, and impeccable educational qualifications, have conquered in their specific domain. Abroad में ही नहीं बल्कि इंडिया में भी अजय श्रीनिवासन एक ऐसे ही हॉटशॉट प्रोफेशनल हैं जिन्होंने 2007 से आदित्य बिरला ग्रुप को ज्वाइन किया as Chief Executive of Financial Services. Since then, he has grown and diversified the company exponentially and spectacularly. आज हम खास मुलाकात करेंगे और सुनेंगे अजय का extraordinary professional career. Hello, मैं हूँ नीवा जैन. Welcome to Zee Business and welcome to another episode of The Big Idea. Hello, Niva Jain here. Welcome to The Big Idea. Welcome to Zee Business and welcome to Mumbai. As we catch up with a rather unusual Big Idea personality, he's Ajay Shrinivasan. He is Chief Executive of the Aditya Birla Financial Services Company. So let's catch up with them in their fabulous India Bulls offices. What offices? It reminds me of NYC, Ajay.
Oh, thank you. I think this office was built to be international in terms of every part of it. Externally, of course, you can see it's a wonderful office, but even internally, we wanted openness. So if you walk around our office, you will see it's all open.
It is an honor and a pleasure, Ajay.
Entirely my
Welcome to The Big Idea.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, for this episode, I myself am very excited. I must ask you, Ajay, you represent the new India. You have under 2 decades. Badhiya se badhiya, you have just risen. Is it great karma? Is it great luck? Is it great brilliance? What is it? And in the financial services sector, no less.
Well, you're being very kind.
No, I'm being honest.
I must thank you for that. But I think, there is really no shortcut to success. And I think the principles are pretty much the same in whatever you do, whatever field you take. I think you need luck. I don't think you're ever going to be successful without a reasonable dollop of luck.
I like that.
But I think you need to work hard. I think the 10,000 hour rule that is so widely used in other areas is probably more than 10,000 hours in management. But I think you've got to give it the hard work. But I think the third thing that is particular to management per se is I think you've got to have a good team. And I think I've been blessed with really working with some wonderful people, whether they were my bosses or
world
peers.
Over,
or
right?
world
For
over,
you,
exactly.
yeah.
Wherever I went, I've been really fortunate. So I think when you stand with such wonderful people, there's a greater chance of success.
Wow. What would you say for you yourself, Ajay? Because financial services is so competitive, it's so cutthroat. What would you say your USP is?
I think from what I've heard from other people, because I can tell you what I think, it may not matter much, but from what I've heard from other people, I think they see in me a focus which I think differentiates me from other people. I have a very clear idea of what I want to get done and how I want to get done, and I have, I think, the determination and the diligence to just keep going after it. And then I think it's a game of just then going after something you want to get after.
Persistency.
Persistence is very important, I think.
Fantastic. Okay, now share with us what are the verticals in the Aditya Birla Financial Services and how you've just been so phenomenal, instrumental in the growth rate in the last decade.
We're a very large non-bank. We have pretty much all the products and services that you could get other than a savings bank account and a current bank account.
Correct.
We've just recently got a payments bank license along with Idea, so hopefully we'll be able to fill some of that gap as well.
But
at the moment, at least, we're everything that other than a bank. So we have multiple lines of business. We are a life insurance business, a mutual fund business, a lending business,
private equity,
a general insurance advisory business, a private equity business, wealth management, broking, housing finance.
A to Z.
A to Z. So it's a pretty broad business. We started out in a journey in 2007 to really ramp up these businesses. We had 5 businesses at that time. Our revenues in 2007 would have been about 1,700 crores. We had about 20,000 crores of assets under management. We had about 500 crores in our lending book. And if I fast forward that to 2015, we ended 2015 with just under 8,000 crores of revenue. So big jump from the 1,700 crores.
How?
I'll tell you. We have a big jump.
That's where you come in, Mr. Superstar.
In our asset management, so we have 1,70,000 crores of assets under management, and our lending book is now almost 19,000 crores. So I think we've seen growth across a number of dimensions, number of businesses, number of customers, profitability, revenue, all of these things. I think We've been very focused, like I said earlier, we've been very clear what we want to do. We started out with a view that was purely customer centric. We said, if we want to deal with retail customers and corporate customers, what are the products and services these people need? And therefore, which of the products and services can we provide in a competitive and an economically viable manner? And that gave us a blueprint in terms of figuring out what we would do and what order we would kind of roll that out. So we're pretty much working to a blueprint that we kind of drew up back in 2007.
And it's gone in that same manner in which you had drawn.
Well, I think the external environment has been quite different. I think
because you changed governments also in between.
But we had 3 very good years, 2007 to 2010. The world was rocking. India hadn't felt the impact of the global crisis till 2010.
Correct.
And then post 2010, all of that kind of started playing out in India. So we've had a rougher ride, externally at least, from 2010. But I think from our perspective, we're happy because both periods, whether the world was doing well or India was doing well, or now, I think we've continued to see good growth in our top line, in our market shares, and our profitability, which means we've got the model right to some extent.
Yeah, what would you say is the reason that you were able to sustain and just grow
so I think in the beginning, when the crisis first hit, I think there were a number of people who were withdrawing, who are getting down, hunkering down because the environment was so much more challenging. And I think we looked at that as an opportunity to actually expand. We thought we'd get good people because there were people going to be available, the property, expand, and we really used that opportunity to expand. So, in fact, we use this example often saying when the crisis actually hit in the industry, assets under management fell for the mutual fund industry. We actually grew because we felt that this was an opportunity that we could leverage quite differently to the rest of the industry.
And that's where the success lay, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you do it consistently and well, then there's a reasonable chance of that.
Ajay, I want you to expand upon the insurance sector. It's very, very important. It's the present and future of India. How do we take it to levels where we're actually on par with the US insurance?
I think the insurance industry in India is severely underpenetrated. If you look at insurance ownership, tends to be very low. I think insurance tends to be typically bought as a tax-saving instrument in India, or as an instrument that does some kind of savings and investment for you. Whereas the primary purpose of insurance should be protection. And I think if you look at the average value of protection today, I would say it's abysmal compared to what is required by people to to be able to protect their life stage and their lifestyle. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to grow this business.
But how do we, I'm sorry to interrupt, how do we educate the consumer?
It's a long process because I think financial literacy in general, I think, is an issue in the country.
Okay, in what way? Why do you say that?
I think if you look at all products, if you look at the ownership of most financial products, I think you'll find it low. I think if you take bank accounts, 30% of people have a bank account. So definitely, I think financial literacy tends to be an area that we all need to focus on as a country. And we've been saying that there are different ways in which we need to address this issue. Maybe you start introducing this as a subject in schools and colleges, so people are exposed to it early enough.
I like that.
Maybe part of the CSR budgets could be set aside for financial literacy. And I think some of the distributors and the agents who actually touch customers, they should be better aware and better prepared to be able to educate the end customer. But I think that's a journey we have to travel if we really want to make...
Okay, expand more upon the insurance sector. How do we educate the average consumer, the average customer?
So I think insurance in many ways has to be looked at as an expense to be able to protect something that you have today. You can't always look at it as an investment and therefore what do I get from it. I think you have to see, every individual today is a member who's an asset to a family and to a group of people. They represent a stream of income, and that stream of income is put at risk if something happens to that individual. So the minute you look at it that way and therefore look at insurance as an expense to protect that, then I think the mindset becomes a very different mindset, and then you don't compare it to other forms of investment per se, but you start looking at it as something that you must have at the core before you start building other assets.
But how do we educate the consumer? That is the point. It's correct what you're saying.
So I think, like I said,
how do we generate an interest to do that, or a desire?
So I think it works in multiple ways. I think, like I say, you have to start with some part of the formal education doing that. I think the distribution channels that do it have to do it. I think we need much more on TV and in newspapers talking about these issues. So I think when people start building their financial portfolio, protection almost has to be the first building block.
See, that's a very good point. You're right. For
because you can't start. You can't start thinking about building, a 44th floor skyscraper without a foundation. And the foundation for anything is protection.
Is protection, yeah. So do you feel now you have a tie-up with a South African firm, MMI? Do you see yourselves heading towards that?
So we have a tie-up in the life insurance side with Sun Life of Canada. They're an amazing firm. They're very large, very successful, and a wonderful partner to us.
Yeah, it's one of the top,
clearly. And our health insurance space, which is what you're referring to, is a joint venture with MMI of South Africa. That again is an area we see as absolutely a huge opportunity.
Health and life, yes.
And health and wellness in a sense, because if you look at it, Indians are spending 60 to 70% of health expenditure out of their own pocket. Now that's a large amount, especially when you start looking at the inflation for health expenditure. And therefore somebody who can provide a system that protects you from that expenditure and allows you to actually cut it down over a period of time, which is where wellness comes in. I think we see a lot of opportunity in that space.
Now would that be, when you talk about health and wellness, in India or even if it's international?
I think internationally it's already kind of picked up. If you look at the South African market, which we've looked at for some time, I think it's a very big opportunity there. The UK has a very big opportunity in terms of wellness. So I think it is something that will catch on in India because we have a younger population. I think they're getting much more aware of what health means and how important health is as an asset for an individual. And I think that's a wonderful background to kind of launch a business like this.
Interesting. Ajay, for you, what would you say is the most exciting sector that you find where there's a lot of growth, where it interests you?
See,
in the whole,
it's very difficult for me to say that. It's like saying which of my children do I like more. It's
sweet.
I think all businesses have tremendous opportunity. We are just so underpenetrated in any business line. It's I see opportunity everywhere I look, and I think optimism is the one thing that brings me to work every morning, because I see there's just so many things you can do over here in the financial services space, and I think that will remain for some years to come.
Interesting. Ajay, your distribution network has been quite phenomenal since you've taken over. Even your geographical footprint. Hamare saath share kar lijiye the strategies you've implemented.
So our view is that we want to build a retail business. So if you want to build a retail business, we want to provide customers the ability to interact with us when and where they want. And therefore you've got to provide multiple touch points to every customer. So some customer may want to come through a bank, somebody may want to come through a trusted advisor, somebody may want to come through a broker, somebody may want to come online. And therefore our approach is really to make sure we provide the entire breadth of opportunities for a customer to interact with us, both for a sale as well as from a service perspective. And that's something that we built over this period of time, because clearly if you have scale ambitions like we do, if you have leadership ambitions like we do, you've got to have the distribution presence to match that.
Okay, as a layman, who is the customer that comes to you?
So we have very broadly three types of customers. So we have what we call the mass affluent customer, who's pretty much middle class India. Then we have the high net worth individual, because they tend to be the people with the money, and a lot of them are looking for products that we offer, whether it's private equity, real estate, equity, stuff like that. And then we have the corporate customer. Now there again you could have large corporates, small corporates, but the corporate customers obviously have a different decision making process, a different dynamic to the other two categories that we discussed.
Right, that's true. Your geographical footprint is also quite robust. In 500 cities, how are you expanding? How have you reached that level and point to date?
So we've reached that actually by doing a lot of analysis in terms of where money lies today. So we get a lot of data in terms of where
cities,
where the money is lying. We also do analysis in terms of where growth is likely to come over the next 5 years. So we have a lot of data that goes at a granular level to see at city level where growth is coming.
And cellular level, wow.
And exactly. And then you use that basis then to try and figure out where you
so what is your take on that? What's the research shown so far?
So the research is showing actually some of the largest cities that we think intuitively are places that will be large and growing are actually slowing much faster than we think. We also look at a market like Mumbai, for instance, and you look at Mumbai as a whole, there are several micro markets within Mumbai, and the fastest growing parts of Mumbai, for instance, would be Thane, would be Goregaon. Those are places really, therefore, we see more money and more opportunity to grow than the traditional marine lines and so
which
on.
You would just presume.
Exactly.
And what about the B and C tier cities? Do you see a lot of growth there, a lot of potential?
I think the future of India really is in many of these smaller cities. I think we're seeing so much more action, so much entrepreneurism, and with the e-commerce boom, I think these people are able to do things that they couldn't do
startups, before. It's just rocking. Which are some of the unusual cities where you see a lot of growth potential, in your opinion?
There are no unusual cities. I think there are a number of cities we see. I mean, we have, for instance, we have a business in Gujarat.
Okay.
And we work in some of the smaller cities in Gujarat, a place like Vapi, for instance. Okay. And Vapi today has become one of our fastest growing businesses for equity funds.
Okay.
It's so you
would have never thought.
You would never have thought a small city like that.
Not even heard of it, but yeah.
Vapi, Valsad, these are all wonderful places for equity funds, and the equity culture is very much alive and kicking.
What do you attribute to like so much growth there?
I think there's money, there's an ability of risk taking, and I think when you get the combination,
risk taking is interesting.
Exactly,
okay,
and I think risk taking varies by culture in India, and therefore varies by geography. And therefore, there are some places that are more open to it than others.
Now, that's a very interesting take, Ajay. You're saying risk-taking also varies in terms of culture and...
It does, very clearly. When you look at the Chinese, I think they are naturally risk-takers.
They are, yes.
I spent some time in Hong Kong. I could see the kind of attitude they have to money is so different to the attitude that I come from a conservative South Indian background that we would have, for instance, to money.
Interesting. Okay, 2 more questions. I think we'll have enough time. In a nutshell, your take on the economic growth of India to the future.
So I think India is absolutely in a phenomenally wonderful place today. When I look around the world, I think India is an oasis of growth in a desert, really struggling to find growth. We have a fantastically young population. We are structurally a domestic economy, and therefore don't have to look outside for growth factors. We have a situation where interest rates are coming down, and we're a country that needs to spend on infrastructure, all of which makes for a wonderful opportunity. And this is combined in a world where there's so much liquidity and a dearth of investment options. So I think India is really wonderfully positioned, and I think we will be the country of the future, I think, for the next decade.
That was really positive. Okay, your take on being a leader today, present and future, and also I want you to tie it in with the Aditya Birla group is also involved with leadership programs, cutting edge, and there's the leap and bound. So share with us your take on that and the cutting edge program.
So the group is very focused on leadership development. I think the group realizes that the biggest job for the group today is really creating leaders of the future, because I think that's really what will build and sustain this group. And when we looked around the group, we didn't find that many people with P&L leadership skills who are ready. So the cutting edge program was created to identify people who had the potential to become P&L leaders, and then to give them the inputs and in a structured way to get them ready for bigger roles.
Okay, and how did you identify that? What were the pointers?
So each business had picked candidates, and they were picked broadly based on performance and what they thought the potential of these individuals were. Okay. So we sent somebody, for instance, from our side, somebody who we thought was very talented, and he's just moved in as the CEO of our health insurance business. So I think it allows us, therefore, to identify people, prepare them, and ultimately give them opportunities that they can then take forward.
Okay, what does leadership mean to you as someone in that position?
So leadership to me means a great opportunity and a responsibility. I think it's an opportunity to really make a difference to people, whether it's employees, whether it's customers, or other people you may interact with. I think it's a really wonderful opportunity to make a difference. But because you have that opportunity, I think it comes with a lot of responsibility. And I think you get to realize very soon.
You'd say that,
you get to realize very soon that there is a large amount of responsibility you carry on your shoulder, including the brand. I mean, we have a brand that is absolutely spectacular. It's built over so many years.
Blue chip.
And our business is a business of trust. So every day you're building trust and looking to build trust.
High on the ethics space,
and that responsibility, I share with all the leaders of the group.
Beautiful, beautiful, Ajay. Ajay, special thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for welcoming us to Mumbai. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful to see
I have loved catching up and hearing your gyan as a real superstar professional. We wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I end this episode of The Big Idea on a contemplative, reflective note. To reach our goals, we have to continually stretch ourselves and train our minds to look outside the box. We must train our minds to see the opportunities that are always waiting for us. For whatever we think about and thank about, we bring about. God bless. Niva Jain.